Hey there, guys and gals. I was going to wait till this weekend to record, but I unexpectedly watched a movie today. The title page, it says Lifetime and then crossed out Amazon. I purposely did that because if I didn't know it was on Amazon, I really would think it's a Lifetime movie. And it's kind of predictable because it reminds me a little bit of the Poison Ivy movies where the friend, a nice looking man with a daughter, and another girl comes along and makes friends with the daughter to get to the father. It's kind of like that, but it's with a teacher, and it's a little trashy, little fun, a little bit predictable, but it's got a little bit of a different methods of getting to the same ending, I guess you could say, and it's kind of laughable in a way. But also, if you're a true Lifetime junkie like I am, even a stupid Lifetime movie is better than no movie if you're bored and you have nothing to do. And not that I was bored, but I needed something to be on in the background. And I ended up sitting down and watching this movie. It was as pathetic as it was good, and it was as suspenseful as it was silly. So stay tuned. In true Lifetime movie fashion, they show the ending scene first, or a piece of the ending scene, I guess to get you hooked on the suspense. A custodian is closing up a school at night, mopping the floors and everything. And he hears a scream from the other room, goes in and says, "Is anybody there?" And he gets attacked. Then it goes to the beginning of the movie. Dad and teen daughter, well, dad we're going to call hot teacher. The teen daughter we're going to call daughter. They're driving to school together, to the new school where she is going to be a student and he is going to be a teacher. We then cut to a scene where everybody's milling around in the lobby of the school, I guess, and there is a girl, kind of nerdy looking but attractive, taking pictures of everybody. Where Miss Popularity comes up and goes, "Aren't you going to take a picture of me and my friends?" And they have a little to do there. And then she eventually takes the picture, but she keeps turning her camera towards a good-looking young guy who happens to be a new teacher at the school. As hot teacher is telling the class, "You can come to me for anything." It's either a literature or an English class is the feeling that I get, or maybe, I don't know, something like, I'll just say literature, okay? He's talking about a few things and he notices Miss Popularity is not really paying attention. She's playing with her phone. So he goes up to her and says, he's asking her questions, kind of embarrassing her, but in a cute way. And she's loving it. She's like giggling and stuff because she was eyeing him in the lobby before the school day started too. And he asks her what's on her phone and music and stuff. Then he goes around to all the students asking, "What music do you have on your phone?" Then he goes up to Pretty Nerd, and she says the Beatles, whereas all the other kids are saying like more modern bands. And Pretty Nerd says the Beatles, and he says a few things to her, and she says a couple of witty things back. After the class, daughter is in the computer lab or something and meets up with Pretty Nerd. Now, Pretty Nerd is a loner and doesn't really have any friends, and a lot of people talk behind her back for some reason. There was a scandal in her past. You'll find out later. So daughter and Pretty Nerd become friends. The next scene is with Pretty Nerd coming home from school and seeing her mom, who's an attractive older lady, on the treadmill taking care of her body and stuff. And she says she's got a date coming up with a guy that she met at the supermarket. What a perfect storm, because daughter has a father whose wife had left him, just like Pretty Nerd's mom, her husband left him, so two single people available. Pretty Nerd is chatting on the phone with daughter. Daughter says her dad has a date coming up with a woman he met in the supermarket. Immediately, Pretty Nerd's ears go up, and the front doorbell rings, and it's hot teacher. You see little scenes coming in with Pretty Nerd having fantasies about making love with hot teacher. So she's like pretty upset that hot teacher is dating her mom. Mom is all dressed up in a pretty dress, and hot teacher's dressed up in a nice suit. And pretty nerd, accidentally on purpose, spills something on him. And they're like, oh no, what are we going to do? So they end up having dinner at home instead of out at a restaurant. And pretty nerd says, oh, I'll help with the cooking, and she helps the cooking. They all eat together and stuff. And then she goes up to her room where she finds out that her mom and hot teacher had made love, and he's still there the next morning and makes them breakfast. Pretty nerd's mom lets hot teacher use the shower, and pretty nerd accidentally sees hot teacher in a less than dressed condition, if you know what I mean. And he says, well, I may as well just drive you to school. I'm going that way anyway. And he stops to pick up his own daughter, and she's like confused, like, what's this girl doing, in the car? And then he figures out that it's her mom that went out with daughter's dad. Pretty nerd gets upset when popular girl flirts openly with hot teacher in class. Then after class, she notices popular girl chatting and hanging out with daughter, which makes her very jealous and furious, and later goes up to her and says, don't be with her. Don't go talking to her. Don't hang out with her. She's terrible. She had an affair with a teacher last year, yada, 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 yada. Hot teacher is at house again to be with pretty nerd's mom, and he's in the bathroom or something, and pretty nerd says, check his phone or something like that. And the mom is like, no, don't do that. Pretty nerd goes, okay, I will. So, oh my God, she's getting flirty text messages from popular girl. The mother gets real upset, and when he comes out of the bathroom, she says, get the hell out of here and all that. He's sitting out in the truck really upset. He's saying, I don't know what's going on and everything. Pretty nerd goes out to the truck to comfort teacher and ends up forcing herself on him. And afterwards, he's like, but he's like confused, like this shouldn't have happened and stuff. And he doesn't want it to happen. But apparently pretty nerd is very crafty. Now, I'm not going to do a play-by-play of this movie. I'm just going to bring up the main points because I want you to be a little surprised when you watch it, right? But there's a point where hot teacher's alone in the classroom, I guess grading papers or something, and pretty nerd goes up to him and kisses him. He's like, cut it out. That shouldn't, I don't want to do this. Go away. Pushes her away. Meanwhile, another student is coming in to talk to him and sees what they're doing because he's holding her hand, like trying to get her to listen when he talks. But the other student that sees them assumes that, they're doing hanky-panky or something. Now, pretty nerd loves taking pictures, but part of it is her voyeuristic wish to get lots of pictures of hot teacher. She's in the darkroom developing pictures, and daughter comes in and says, okay, I heard that it wasn't popular girl who had an affair with a teacher last year. It was you. And they get into a little fight, and they're not speaking to each other. When nobody else is around, outside in front of the school, popular girl confronts pretty nerd and said, you planted those messages. I never wrote those messages to hot teacher. How could you do that? And pretty nerd goes, look, we'll settle it right now. And she starts hitting herself to make it look like popular girl beat her up. So then the crowd gathers, and yeah, it looks like popular girl beat up pretty nerd when pretty nerd really did it to herself, but nobody knows that. Mom had gotten very upset with pretty nerd because at one point she catches pretty nerd screwing around with hot teacher. Kicks him out of the house, and I don't know, I guess she wasn't home, so those two were doing the wang dang doodle or whatever, and she gets really upset, and she says, you're not to see him ever again. She says to teacher, hot teacher, stay away from my daughter, and all that stuff. But after that, pretty nerd is in the hospital from being beaten up by popular girl. So mom goes in to visit her in the hospital with flowers and all that stuff. And at this point, hot teacher and daughter are there too because they feel bad. And daughter is speaking to Pretty Nerd again. Now, it is made known that Pretty Nerd is 18 years old and she's been accepted to a college that she's been dying to go to. But she's not even that happy because she's so obsessed with a hot teacher. And then she finds out that our daughter has been invited to a party with the popular kids, and she's very upset. Then later on, it is daughter's birthday party, and they have a big fancy yard with a pool and everything, and all the popular kids are there, and so is Pretty Nerd. And she gives daughter her birthday present and everything, and they hug. And later she sneaks in the house and fools around with hot teacher, and daughter catches them. Hot teacher tells all the kids, leave, this party's over, or whatever. And daughter had run off. And Pretty Nerd is saying to hot teacher, don't worry, just hang out here. She'll come back when she's ready. He goes, no, I'm going to go find her. Pretty Nerd goes, who's more important, her or me? Hot teacher says, my daughter is more important, which infuriates Pretty Nerd. Hot teacher makes several attempts to let it be known to Pretty Nerd that he does not want to be involved with her. And she just isn't taking a hint. What ends up happening is that she is at the school at night and daughter is there for some reason. And she actually attacks daughter. And then the scene comes with the custodian, and the rest you're going to have to watch to see what happens. It's kind of a predictable Lifetime movie ending, but there's a couple twists. It was kind of a juicy movie, but kind of funny at the same time because I said, I bet they're going to do so-and-so, and sure enough, they do. But there were a couple little surprises in there. I wouldn't be surprised if this movie is going to be on Lifetime like in a week. I watched it because it was, supposedly Amazon Prime included movies or without commercial and whatever. Once they get to Lifetime, they might cut out a few things. I mean, they didn't really show much nudity. They showed kind of simulated nudity. And I don't remember them saying curse words, but if they were, they would be taken out of the Lifetime version. I don't remember them saying anything like F word or anything like that. And I was right there in the room and pretty much looking at the TV most of the time, enough to know what was going on in the story. But if you get a chance, if you want to laugh or if you just want to say, oh, how disgusting, catch this movie. It's free on Amazon. It might even be free on some of the Amazon Prime. It might even be free on some of the other channels. Who knows? Or in a couple weeks, you might find it on Lifetime, or someone might have even uploaded it to YouTube. I'll be back next week with another movie. Now, this is not a true movie. This is just a movie that kind of got my interest a little bit, but moreover, it kind of amused me. But it was worth a watch. And, if you're a movie junkie, a Lifetime movie junkie, even though it's not Lifetime yet, if you like these kind of movies, definitely catch it. See you next time. Bye-bye.